She was my neighbor's wife, but the moment her hands touched mine, everything changed. The neighborhood had always been quiet, almost eerily so, with its neat rows of houses and familiar faces nodding politely as they passed. But that afternoon, something was different. As I walked back from work, I noticed a subtle, lingering aroma drifting from the house next door. Lavender, warm and soothing, curling gently into the air. It wasn't just a scent. It carried a sense of calm, like the quiet promise of comfort after a long day. I paused by the gate, catching sight of her for the first time. She was in the garden, tending to potted plants, sunlight catching strands of her hair and highlighting the natural grace in her movements. She wasn't young in the sense of careless youth, but she radiated a confidence and poise that made her presence feel grounding. Her smile, warm yet enigmatic, made me step a little closer without realizing it. "Hi," I said, trying to sound casual, though my voice came out rougher than intended. She looked up, her eyes meeting mine. There was a spark of recognition in them, not of knowing me, but of curiosity and gentle amusement. She held a small watering can, and when she handed it to me to refill the nearby pot, our fingers brushed for a fleeting moment. The touch was brief, nothing intentional, but the warmth of her hand lingered in a way that made my chest tighten unexpectedly. I felt a small, inexplicable thrill, like a secret shared without words. We exchanged polite conversation, but there was an undertone I couldn't quite name. She asked about my day, her voice soft, almost musical, and I realized I was listening more to the inflection than the words themselves. Every tilt of her head, every brush of her hair behind her ear, seemed to pull my attention inward, making the world outside the garden fade. Even the simplest details became vivid. The sunlight filtering through the leaves, casting playful shadows on her face. The faint rustle of her clothes as she moved, the soft scent of the earth mixed with the delicate perfume she wore. I noticed the calm steadiness of her presence, the quiet strength in the way she carried herself. For a brief moment, I imagined what it would be like to be in her proximity for longer, to feel that quiet warmth again. And then it was over. She laughed lightly at something I said, a sound that was entirely natural, entirely her, and my thoughts scattered like leaves in a breeze. I waved goodbye, feeling an unusual mix of excitement and hesitation. I knew nothing about her, except that she was my neighbor's wife. And yet, the encounter lingered, an unexpected spark in the monotony of my daily life, a sense of curiosity I couldn't shake. As I walked back to my house, I realized the scent of lavender was still in the air, a soft, invisible tether reminding me that something, or someone, had quietly unsettled the rhythm of my world. Days passed, but the faint trace of lavender lingered in my mind. Then, one afternoon, our paths crossed again by chance in the garden. She commented on the tension she noticed in my shoulders, a casual remark, but somehow weighted with observation. "You look like you carry a lot of stress," she said, tilting her head, eyes soft yet assessing. Before I could answer, she laughed lightly, a sound that seemed to smooth the edges of the world. "I'm a masseuse," she added as if it were no big deal. "I could help if you like. Just neighborly, of course." Her voice had a gentle authority, like she knew exactly what she was offering and the boundaries she intended to maintain. I hesitated, part of me aware that this was unconventional. After all, she was my neighbor and married. But another part, the part that craved quiet relief from long hours at work, couldn't refuse the invitation. A subtle thrill ran through me as I nodded. When I arrived at her home for the first session, the atmosphere immediately enveloped me. The soft lighting, muted tones, and faint aroma of oils created a calm oasis. As I removed my jacket and sat, she guided me with quiet confidence. Her hands found my shoulders, pressing with firm yet gentle pressure. Every touch seemed deliberate, soothing knots I hadn't even realized I carried. The physical sensation was calming, but what surprised me most was the emotional effect. Her presence was steadying. The warmth of her hands radiated through my body, grounding me. I caught myself noticing details I wouldn't have otherwise. The way her fingers flexed with care, the subtle rhythm of her breathing, even the slight tilt of her head as she concentrated. A small brush of her hand along my arm lingered just a fraction longer than necessary, and I felt an unexpected shiver. My mind tried to rationalize it, simply nerves or the human response to touch, but deep down, I knew it was more than that. There was a quiet intimacy in this proximity, a sense of shared space and trust. Sessions became routine, each one slowly building a bridge between us. Conversation moved beyond casual remarks. She asked about my life, my aspirations, the small regrets and victories of daily existence. I found myself opening up, sharing stories I rarely told anyone. And she listened, truly listened, with a patience that made me feel seen in a way that startled me. Occasionally, our hands brushed, not clumsily, but almost ritualistically, when reaching for a towel or adjusting the pillow. Each contact sent a quiet warmth through me. I noticed how her gaze lingered a moment too long, the subtle curve of her smile suggesting an unspoken understanding. It wasn't just physical comfort, it was emotional resonance. She had a way of tilting her head, adjusting her posture, or leaning slightly closer that made every word and every touch feel intentional, intimate without being overt. I became acutely aware of the spaces between us. The brief silences filled with unspoken questions, the gentle tension in her movements, the way our energies seemed to sync for fleeting moments. One afternoon, I caught her looking at me with a softness that made my heart skip. She didn't speak, didn't move, but the weight of that gaze lingered longer than it should have. I felt a subtle tug at my conscience, a reminder of boundaries, but also a growing pull toward something forbidden, something electrifying in its restraint. Even the small details became vivid. The faint scent of her hair mingling with massage oils, the soft rustle of fabric as she adjusted herself, the warmth radiating from her body when she leaned over to check my posture. Every session left me simultaneously relaxed and unsettled, comforted yet aware of a tension that could not be ignored. The growing connection brought a strange mixture of comfort and unease. I became hyper-aware of the line we were walking. Every touch, every glance, carried a weight I couldn't easily define. My mind wrestled with attraction, curiosity, and respect, an internal debate that made even routine sessions feel charged. She, too, seemed conscious of boundaries. A hand that lingered briefly on my shoulder would retract suddenly. A gaze that met mine for a heartbeat would look away. The tension between restraint and desire built gradually, almost imperceptibly, yet palpably. There was a moment one evening when she leaned close to adjust a pillow, and her hair brushed my shoulder. My pulse quickened, and I caught myself holding my breath. She noticed, and our eyes met, an unspoken acknowledgement of what lingered beneath the surface. Then she stepped back with a polite smile, and the ordinary rhythm of the session resumed, but the memory of that brief closeness clung to me. The contrast of warmth and restraint became intoxicating. The gentle pressure of her hands on my back, the subtle scent of lavender in the room, the quiet timbre of her voice, all combined into an experience that was as emotional as it was physical. Each session became a delicate dance of proximity and distance, of curiosity held at bay by respect and awareness of her life outside these moments. One evening, the session extended beyond massage. Rain fell softly against the windows, creating a cocoon-like atmosphere. Conversation deepened, drifting from casual topics to personal vulnerabilities. She spoke of moments of loneliness, of feeling unseen in the swirl of daily life, her voice tinged with quiet longing. I listened, offering empathy and understanding. Words became a bridge, connecting us emotionally. The room felt smaller, warmer, as if the world outside had dissolved. Our hands met intentionally this time, palms resting lightly against one another. A simple yet profound gesture of trust and connection. The physical contact was minimal, but the emotional resonance was enormous. Every slight movement, every shared silence, felt charged with meaning. My attention lingered on the warmth of her hand, the cadence of her speech, the softness in her eyes that seemed to plead for understanding and companionship. The tension reached its peak one rainy evening. The massage room felt intimate, cocooned by the rhythmic sound of rain. A long silence hung between us, heavy and electric. Her hands pressed against my shoulders, a little firmer than usual, lingering with purpose. Our gazes locked, and words felt unnecessary. Slowly, she leaned forward, resting her cheek briefly against my shoulder. The warmth, the subtle heartbeat beneath her, created a sensation that was grounding and intoxicating all at once. The world narrowed to the small space we shared, each moment carrying the weight of unspoken emotions. My mind screamed caution, yet every fiber of my being was aware of the intensity of this connection. Even as we acknowledged the boundaries of reality, the closeness left an indelible mark, an emotional imprint that would linger far beyond this moment. The final session brought a sense of calm resolution. We had navigated the tension, the unspoken desires, and the emotional pull, arriving at a quiet understanding. The bond remained, but now tempered with clarity and respect. As I prepared to leave, she extended her hand, a gesture of friendship, trust, and shared intimacy. Our palms met, lingering for just a moment, warm and reassuring. A soft smile passed between us, carrying gratitude, acknowledgement, and the quiet ache of what could have been. Stepping back into the evening, the rain had stopped, leaving the air fresh and clean. The memory of her presence remained, a gentle reminder that some connections do not need to be consummated to leave an enduring emotional mark. It was a slow-burn romance, complete in its restraint, and deeply human in its emotional resonance. If this slow-burn story captured your heart, don't forget to hit like and subscribe for more age gap romances and emotional tales that stay with you long after the video ends. Share your thoughts in the comments. Have you ever experienced a connection that left you breathless, even without words?